Here at the Nebraska Power Farming Show, there are several seminars tailored to farmers with questions about running a successful operation during tougher times. And that's important because financial stress is steadily mounting against farmers across the country. Faced with uncertain financial security, many producers are turning to alternative money lenders for higher interest rate loans in order to save their farms. While traditional banks charge a modest 2 to 5% interest, these high interest loans can be as high as 30%. So what can be done? Market Journal's Bill Dodd has the story.
Thanks, Troy. According to the USDA, farm debt is projected to reach a record $416 billion this year. That would be a 40% increase from the year 2012, and as 2019 draws to a close, defaults and farm bankruptcies are rising and stifling the ability of cash-strapped farmers to secure funding for seed, fuel, and fertilizer, causing them to take out risky loans from non-traditional lenders.
After 5 years of hefty harvests, crop prices have been pushed down and diminished farm profits. Furthermore, flooding issues this year have left millions of acres unplanted, and the Trump administration's trade war on China has further depressed demand for U.S. crops. With all these factors piling up one after another, many ag producers are having a hard time applying for loans through traditional lending agencies and borrowing from alternative lenders at astronomical interest rates. According to Executive Director of Nebraska Farm Business Incorporated, Tina Barrett, this trend has been coming for some time. Many producers over the past several years have been reaching out to multiple lending agencies rather than one trusted institution, which in turn has created a lack of financial oversight.
We've got, even in the 20 years that I've been working with producers, we've seen lending from one place kind of go away with the introductions of John Deere Financial and Ag Direct and some of those direct market lenders, as well as input providers providing financing. We now have a lot of our producers who are getting lending from multiple sources, which means there's no one oversight that is watching the whole portfolio other than the producer. And so, as we do that, one of the things we've lost is the ability for that outside viewpoint to monitor everything. And so I think that, whether it's from a lender with a high interest rate or just multiple sources of lending, there's definitely been some oversight loss in that.
For many looking at higher interest loans, that route may be the last option. Some potential borrowers may have a previous business relationship with a trusted lender who just doesn't see a way to recoup their money and has to refuse the loan. If that's the case for someone needing additional funds, Tina tells me at this point it would be prudent to start examining your practices and finances to make sure a higher interest rate loan could work in your favor.
I think a lot of that comes down to really good cash flow planning and really good analysis. If you don't know where your business is, if the only thing that you know is that the lender that you're used to using said no more, then we really need to do a lot of work to figure out where that business is at. Because if we don't have a cash flow that can repay those even any loans, what's the point of paying more interest for it? Making sure that we have a plan that is reasonable, that makes sense for that operation, is going to be really important.
These high-interest loans can be a blessing or a curse depending on your situation, but make no mistake, there is little to no risk for the lender in this scenario. These loans are high risk, high reward for some, and just plain high risk for others. If this is something you are considering, you should do so with extreme circumspection.
A lot of times, the lenders have themselves covered. Where they're going to have some sort of collateral to cover their risk of not being repaid. So from a producer standpoint, obviously your risk is that your interest continues to grow, that your equity continues to erode, and that when you're done with this, it might end up in a bankruptcy where you have nothing left. And so, that's the one thing we don't want to do just for the sake of being able to farm one more year or even 2 more years. So we just got to watch that. But if we can potentially get that farm through a rough space, get them into a profitable position again, move forward with traditional lending, maybe these short-term high-interest loans, might be a good option.
Most decisions farmers make on a daily basis are a gamble. With a variety of unknown variables they face day to day, year in and year out, Tina suggests knowing your situation well before gambling on a high-interest loan that could fold your operation. If you're facing financial struggles due to an unforeseen event, much like the flooding we saw this year, for instance, a short-term higher interest loan could be the solution you need. If, on the other hand, you've been facing profitability issues on top of unforeseen catastrophic events, you may be better off getting out with your equity intact.
I think it's a hard thing to look at. There's a lot of things to look at when an operation's in that kind of financial position where traditional lending's not where they're going to be at for a little while. There's certainly a place where if we think that there's enough health in the operation that we can get it turned around, that it was significant events, maybe a weather event that put them in that position, more so than just a downturn in profitability. Maybe those things can be seen as a lifeline. The other thing to think about at that point is it worth continuing doing what hasn't been working? And are you better off to exit while you have some equity rather than try and find any source you can to go whether or not it's a feasible choice?
While it may be a hard pill to swallow, these loans have the potential to save an operation when they work and the ability to decimate livelihoods when they can't be repaid. These loans are not a magic bullet, and any producer that fails to efficiently produce a crop and viability may find themselves in a worse situation than they were in before taking a higher interest loan. Now, this is something we're going to continue to monitor, but for now, I'll send it back to you, Troy.